Welcome in to the next episode, the newest episode of Betting the Pitch NFL edition. I'm with 6-0, six straight best bet victories from Andrew Schnicker, A_SCHNITKER. I shouldn't really need to spell it anymore because you should know by now. And you should be jumping on his picks. He went 5-1 against the spread on our little rundown as we went into the end of our show, picking every game on Tuesday night. So that was pretty nice. And he even gave one win away to me for my best bet. So I'm 4-2 my last six, or 4-1 my last five, I believe.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, I'm not making up any ground. So 2-0 for the podcast. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm good. And you know what? It's a great chase and it's a great race, which means that everyone's making money. So that's all that matters, right?
That's
So
what we're
keep
here
going.
for. That's exactly what we're trying to do.
I
So
heard a rumor that we're never going to lose again. I can't confirm that, but I heard it's on the streets that's we're never going to lose again.
uh, I'm very intimidated by that statement, but I'm glad that you believe it. I mean, you haven't lost in a while. So we did have a brief sojourn when I was in Italy, but
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know. I think ever since we came back and started doing this, I don't think you've lost. So maybe that'll hold true. I'm looking forward to another big weekend of the NFL, amongst other sports, and just literally putting all of my financial well-being and everything on the line, especially on Saturday, because college basketball, I'm sure, will be another big day as they try to avoid Sunday for the millionth weekend in a row. But on this episode, we're going to go through the entire card because we're only down to a 4-pack now. Though it is one of the best, I think, NFL weekends of the year. We got some teams that seem like they're pretty good. That's, I guess, up for debate. But we're gonna go through those, give best bets end of show. I'll chop them out for YouTube on Shorts and on Instagram as well. So if you're not following, I don't have a betting the pitch yet on either of those platforms, but if you're not following me there yet, go to real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, and on Twitter. Of course, that's where you can find Schnicker and I. On Twitter, he's A_SCHNITKER. I have not adjusted by name on this video yet, but I will do that. We'll start with, and I guess we might as well do the same thing we did last weekend, which was say what we made our lines. Some might be embarrassing, some not, because I was perfect on my bets made this weekend, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
We'll start with the Saturday afternoon game, Houston visiting Baltimore. What was your number, Schnicker?
I've got the Ravens minus 7.5. Between 7.5 and 8, really.
I had a 10. It looks
Oh,
like we
wow.
opened 9.5. Baltimore 9.5 point favorite, total at 46.5. My total was 48 and a third. And then we've fallen to 9 with a total rising to, or excuse me, falling also to 44. Anything that stands out there? I mean, not huge numbers
Yeah.
besides around the teaser area.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yes, if we saw an 8, I think you'd see people jump at that. But yeah, we're kind of in the no man's land. When we your number, it shows that you're higher on the Ravens. I think it's probably um people looking at last weekend and maybe adjusting their numbers a little bit based
I
off of.
wouldn't read too deeply into like my numbers being, I think I like this. Basically, I learned very quickly that I'm not a variance handicapper because it did not work very well for me probably a decade ago. But
Gotcha.
instead, I'm really trying to put out there what I expect the line to be and then trying to mess with a total that it falls somewhere around where we're looking.
Yeah.
So haven't seen any weather stuff, which if you bet under in Buffalo, I don't know if you got your bet canceled, but it did not win. I know that.
No,
On what happened
house
on.
rules probably that's a wide range of responses probably on that one if you got your money back or not. But we saw that. Remember, this was the first. Didn't the Ravens and Texans play the first week of the season?
They did. I think it was the opener, actually.
It was. It was very much the opener. Uh, I don't think anybody was watching that game expecting this to be a divisional matchup in the
I have to
playoffs.
literally look up the score. I don't even remember. It was 25-9 Ravens,
Yeah,
and it was at one point 22-6. So, but that was CJ Stroud's first game.
yeah.
I don't think he threw a pick till like game number 6. So no turnovers there. Lamar Jackson, one interception, 169 nice yards passing, and 38 yards rushing. Not a lot of beauty in that box score, to say the
No.
least.
And
Uh,
it's so different now. Um, the Texans to me, I feel like we've really hammered in on how we can handicap them and the questions that always remain that are going to remain every single week. Like the offensive game plan that they came out with against the Browns, unbelievable. I really thought it was a masterpiece in terms of a game plan. And you and I kind of going back and forth before the game talking about, all right, is Slowick the offensive coordinator for the Texans? Is he going to actually just let CJ Stroud go loose and really, use that home field advantage and get him going? And that's exactly what they did. Granted, the Browns defense, neither defense was good, but the Browns defense just looked completely lost. And
16 points worse on the road, apparently, and they're
yeah, yeah,
out
and
loud.
we could probably pull it back for last week when I was saying, yeah, I don't really buy into those splits, but man, there was something there with that split. But also, I do want to give credit to the Texans offense and what CJ Stroud was able to do there. Uh, this defense is a different animal. I do think you factoring in, maybe I'm a little bit short on my number if I don't factor in the Ravens rest advantage there with really, a week
Or
and
is
a
it
half.
rust?
Rest versus rust. I think it will help. Yeah, I am still kind of snake bitten by the Ravens of previous playoff performances in this divisional round. It makes me a little bit nervous. I think back to, what was that, man? That was 2020. We were in Las Vegas. You were beating me at the poker table, and Lamar
Oh,
Jackson.
oh, okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I knew this was coming back. Uh-huh.
you thought that you knew this was coming back, and they laid a dud against the Titans in the divisional round.
Well, don't worry.
So,
Some guy got me back in New Orleans when he had
oh, there
pocket
you go.
fives and I had aces, and he took all the money I had. So I think I'm an 81% favorite there, but whatever.
Yeah. Um, so it's a bad matchup, in my opinion. Yes, you do need to check the weather reports. Bad matchup for the Texans offense against this Ravens defense. The Will Anderson, they have some pass rush. The Texans defense, I don't know if they're going to get healthy in a couple of days. Will Anderson was playing, a quarter of the snaps, basically only on passing downs. So we're going to want to monitor reports, but I don't think that those are injuries that are just going to solve themselves in
Looks
during
like
the
14-mile-an-hour winds and 26 degrees Fahrenheit.
okay.
That should be a little bit less than 0 Celsius for our Canadian and international folks listening. I know that's a big, big number of you. And thank you all for giving us your time, your energy, your willingness to listen to us instead of your families. That's meant a lot to us. If you're on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. It's huge for us. Also, if you could, if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe. That'd be nice too. But keep going, Shani. So I guess
No,
we
no,
got
I
some
wanted
game.
your thoughts. That's kind of where we're at. I feel like Texans pass rush should be able to get home, but it's going to be coming in waves in the terms of just the health of those pass rushers. Maybe do you have a Ravens perspective aside or some opinion on what they might be successful with?
Well, I do think pass rush is somewhat limited against a mobile quarterback like Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson, who doesn't seem to be just a athletic specimen who can run around anymore. He seems to have enough of the passing game. I don't know necessarily if CJ Stroud, if I would say he's as mobile. I don't think he is, but he seemed pretty able to get around. Maybe it was the Houston O-line blocking Cleveland very well because they weren't on a silent count or something like that. But from a Baltimore perspective, I just feel like their games kind of snowball. They crushed everyone that they were playing earlier in the year. That seemed to be like the worst teams that they were playing, and then we kind of weren't sure if they were that good, if they were just paper tigers or had beaten up a weak schedule, and then had some close games, but they still kept winning them all. They got the 1 seed. They dominated San Francisco, though it was a lot thanks to tip balls and turnovers, but I feel like it's hard to poke holes in what Baltimore has done this year. And it does to me since every play is like a car crash in the NFL. I feel like having a week to not have to worry about that, and really 2 weeks because I think, clinched in week 17 of 18. So they've been off for a while, which I do think means they're probably a little bit rusty, but I forever would rather have a healthy team that is rusty. Like if AJ Brown played for Philadelphia, maybe that would have been a slightly different game. They could have thrown to someone other than Devontae Smith. the Eagles last night. But I just feel like Baltimore they've really looked dominant when I've watched them. And what the number kind of sits to speak more about this number 9 that we're getting a 9-point favorite Baltimore at home. I mean, that's not simply winning a game. That is covering. That is also like when there are late backdoor covers, it's usually or some of the most frustrating ones are when you could get a backdoor cover, but someone instead opts for a field goal to get it under to one possession. I mean, there's a ton of danger here where Baltimore, I think, has to win this game. It's got to be lopsided, and they have to be up enough that you're feeling somewhat comfortable, or else you're just holding on for dear life for a Kaimi Fairbairn 45-yard field goal with no time remaining that gets them to a 7-point or 8-point deficit, and that's covering the spread. So that's meaningful to me. As always, I'm going to look the underdog way first, but total at 44, falling a little bit from the opener, doesn't say too much to me, but I mean, that's a pretty low total considering how good both of these offenses can be. I think Houston scored 45 themselves against the Browns, though 2 of those were back-to-back pick sixes. The Joe Flacco experience, unfortunately, only lasted 1 week for us in the NFL playoffs, but I don't know. It's probably very unlikely that Houston will do that again, to say the least. I do think that winning a turnover battle against Baltimore in that week 1 game, but still losing by 16 points does look pretty bad to me. But it was Stroud's first start. I don't think that we really even knew who Tank Dell was at that point. Unfortunately, he's not going to play as his leg heals. But when I look at Houston, I want to see that they can score with Baltimore because I'm afraid that the Houston defense is not able to keep Baltimore out of the end zone.
Yeah. And going back to Kaimi Fairbairn, man, he makes me nervous. Like that, to me, he is not a solid kicker. And if we're talking about, again, we're recording this on Tuesday, talking about wind, talking about that feels dicey to me.
Okay, but if a Houston kicker is missing important field goals, yes, it's bad in early in the game for momentum and field position and things of that nature. But like, if we're worried about field goal kickers, then probably Baltimore -9 is not the side we want here because that just makes me feel like that. Yes, things do snowball, and I've said that with Baltimore, but this is a touchdown game for Baltimore with this 9-point spread. Unless
Yeah.
their defense is going to really silence Houston, which I mean, we've seen Houston, they don't turn the ball over. And that to me is like the most important thing you can have as an underdog. I don't know if I necessarily call them and feel like calling them outright here, but more than a touchdown. Yes, they had an easy one, but they also didn't really have to play the last quarter. They were getting snaps for some quarterbacks that I had in my fantasy team as recently as 2 years ago, not named CJ Stroud, who were in the game. So
Yeah.
Davis Mills, I believe. So Baltimore to me, I mean, they can step on this neck early and get way ahead of Houston. Houston maybe catches up late. That would be, I think, a scenario of favorite covers. But Baltimore, they're going to have to, I mean, like we saw it with Pittsburgh and Buffalo yesterday, that unfortunately Pittsburgh got off to a really awful start, but they were still in the range to cover for the last quarter, it felt like, and then ended up not. But I trust Houston a lot more to move the ball than I do Mason Rudolph.
What I do want to see from Houston's offense in this situation is to realize the moment you're in and say, okay, we have to go for it. We have to have the almost gunslinger or gamble type mentality because it's a game of variance and you shouldn't have been in this spot. So what I don't want to see is the game plan of a couple weeks back where you're conservative and you're trying to do too much with the run game. Like go out
Against
with
the
your
Colts,
best.
you're talking about.
Yes. That was that 2 weeks ago. Go out with your best. Go out swinging and firing. Um, because you're as a 9.5 point favorite, you're going to have some variance go your way.
Why can I guess how about this? Can Houston and their O line block the Baltimore defensive line blitz packages and such?
Well, you're gonna look for what Laramie Tunsil if he shows up on the injury report.
Yes, that's
Vital
important.
piece. He does show up there often, so don't get spooked by that. You're just gonna want to monitor as we get closer to kickoff on Saturday. Um, they've been workmanlike this year. Like they've been good enough. And so if Tunsil's in, yeah,
Because
they'll be
Laramie
okay.
Tunsil, according to the Texans Wire, I'm sure it's a very very
That may be like
unbiased source.
their team site. That
I
might
think it's a
actually.
very unbiased source. They said Texans OT Laramie Tunsil erased Browns pass rusher Miles Garrett in wild card wins. So I don't know that there's anyone that's specifically that big of a name like Miles Garrett in that Baltimore defensive line. But I mean, I'm tempted a little bit, and I know it's easy to say this because they had such a walkover, and a lot of that was from defensive touchdowns. But it's really hard not to back a team that just looked great and has their feet under them in the playoffs. I mean, I guess they got to worry about blocking Jadeveon Clowney, but I feel like that's if Tunsil's in, that's probably something that should be able to be done. And they're getting a huge number. So, I mean, you could argue that maybe that's too easy. And why are they getting 9? But I feel like my number was bigger, which is usually not the case. I'm usually short underdogs, if anything. And just from my perspective, I feel like there's a good chance that these playoff games, the semifinals of each conference, really play a lot tighter than the odds makers are expecting because this is a big time for recreational bettors to throw money in. And I'm not saying that they're any worse than a pro, honestly. Like some people do it very infrequently and win, and that's great probably for their romantic partners and things of that nature, and not a life that I probably will ever live. But at this point, I don't know necessarily that we're going to see a cheap favorite at this point in this tournament, it feels like. And so I'm into the dog.
You want to move on?
Yeah, let's go to Green Bay visiting San Francisco. I think we all knew this would be a night game, but Saturday night, I guess that's probably the desired slot. What'd you make this one?
49ers favored by 10.5.
Ooh, I made it 9 with a total at 53.5, which we're at 50.5 at the opener. That hasn't moved. It looks like 9.5 spread has not moved either. So San Francisco, same sort of argument, and interesting to see both 1 seeds playing on Saturday. But this, I think, is the cream of the crop, biggest fan bases potential. And I'm really looking forward to this game.
Yeah.
What do we think about that number coming a point short of what you were expecting?
I'm well, my Packers, I may not be weighting it enough, maybe. I do have some concerns. We talked a little bit about turnovers, and yes, we're not gonna break ground with that, but look at some of the games from the wild card weekend and how much turnovers made a difference. Green Bay's turnovers were just, I mean, I was literally cackling watching that first half, watching that whole thing unfold. And I've been pretty hard on the Packers defense in terms of being pretty low on them. But I do like Devondre Campbell, the linebacker who's kind of the leader in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Jair Alexander is a top 5
Is he
defensive back.
hurt?
And
That's
that's
a
kind of what
concern.
I'm getting at. Both of those guys, Alexander with the ankle, Campbell has been nicked up all year, and he missed some time during the game on Sunday, later maybe in the third quarter. That's really when the Cowboys offense, granted, it's totally different game state, and you're just chucking it trying to go, but they were able to move the ball really well when those two guys were dinged up. So that's my concern, because if they're not at 100%, there aren't a lot of other names, and Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator, is just still, I don't know if he's going to keep his job after the season, even after getting to the divisional round, because they just aren't performing to some of the names on the sheet.
Okay, so Alexander supposedly made some incredible moves to get himself fit or
Yeah,
ready for the Cowboys game. And now apparently the Dairyland Express, I'm sure another very
these are really reputable
in
sources. They're
between the
good.
lines,
Yeah,
hard hitters, but no bias allowed. The Green Bay Packers have received some concerning news on their star quarterback ankle injury following their win over the Dallas Cowboys. So, uh, if he's not available, what does that do for Green Bay? Because I think we were already concerned about their ability to defend passing games,
yeah,
right?
yep, very much. And I mean, the run defense has improved throughout the year, but it was bottom 6 or 7 for most of the season. Um,
Because
it's just such a
Carrington Valentine, I got to say, I've seen him because I
yeah.
recognize his name a lot, and he seems to be very swaggy. And every time he breaks up a pass, everyone knows about it. But
True.
seeing a seventh round draft pick from the 2023 NFL draft as the left cornerback, and then seeing their first round draft pick from the 18 draft, Jared Alexander, potentially miss, that's concerning because I imagine that's probably you don't really just want two starting quarterbacks because you honestly you got to have a nickel in there to defend the slot as well. So that's a concern, and maybe can explain some of this number, but it's still below what you made it. And happy to tell you that Jordan Love, you want to guess how many interceptions he's thrown in his last 9 games?
Fill me in, please.
Just one.
Just one. And I mean, the 49ers defense, they've lost pieces throughout the year. They've gotten nicked up, and it's caused a little bit of a slide. What did this total open at 50? So we've seen a little bit of movement up.
50 and a half I have.
Was the open?
Hard to say. I was not sitting by my computer watching these like I was last week.
I
Sorry to all the audience. But you want to guess how many interceptions
Purdy
Brock Purdy has thrown in his last 2 games?
last 2 games. He didn't play against the Rams.
Yes.
The Ravens game. I'll say 5.
There were 4 in that game, 0 against Washington, who he played after Baltimore. Then he had 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 2, 2, 1. So he had a pretty good streak of only 2 picks thrown in 6 games. But he threw 11 picks this year, played only, let's see, 16 games. So like that's a lot. It's a pretty big number, you know. I don't and who knows? I mean, I know the world fell in love with Brock Purdy, and all of a sudden he was an MVP candidate. That then after the Ravens game fell from like third in odds to 16th or something crazy. Um, I'm not sure I'm that much of a believer in him. I am a believer in Shanahan and his offense and what it all does, but I do feel like system quarterback kind of strikes a weird it plays a weird tone for me when you're in the opera or whatever example I'm trying to go with here,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
as a 9.5 point favorite.
He's certainly within that system. He's the system quarterback. I would say he's the best system quarterback they've had, and look how close they've gotten to winning it all with quarterbacks with lesser additions of that system quarterback. I would just look to the other playmakers they have. I mean, McCaffrey, Kittle makes a ton of sense in this matchup. Uh, Debo Samuel all over the field, like that. I feel like this over is going to go up pending what weather we look at in Santa Clara for Saturday night. Um, I would think, because if we want, whenever we're ready to go to the other side, we look at the Packers offense
Go ahead,
versus
I'm ready.
defense. Um, yeah, Jordan Love. I mean, he should be able to find those kind of splash plays again, if their offensive line can slow down Armstead, can slow down Chase Young, can slow down Bosa. It's that I feel pretty good about where my number is, even after we talked about it a little bit. And it really doesn't have a whole lot to do with the Packers' improvement down the stretch, more of where I'm at with the 49ers.
So checking back into about a week ago when I told you that Green Bay would be able to run on Dallas, that seems to me like the same type of scenario here, where San Francisco, when they pin their ears back and are rushing the passer, either with a lead or if Green Bay's in third and longs or second and longs, then that is the biggest concern because Chase Young, part of why he got traded from the Commanders is because he has no gap discipline and likes to just do his own one-man band type stuff. And I mean, to me, that's the way you stay in this game is this Green Bay can get some push from their offensive line and can grind that clock down. Now, I thought in Dallas they would need a lot more of that. They didn't need it because they just scored every time they had the ball, it seemed, when the game was in doubt or in the balance. And then their defense scored. I just feel like there's again here a lot of points being offered to a team that's got a really hot quarterback. I think Jordan Love is not Aaron Rodgers, but seemingly he's had some pretty good games lately. And I'm probably taking him over Brock Purdy, I think, if I'm going with quarterbacks I trust at this point.
Yeah. Do you? It's okay. We can move on. Do you remember what did you have Packers Cowboys last week? What was your number?
Let me scroll up.
We don't have to.
I had
It's
6.
You had 6. So 49ers 3.5 point favorites, neutral ish against the Cowboys. I think that's
which I mean, they were a 3-point favorite, maybe
I,
juiced at
I think
home
this.
to
I
Dallas way back
mean,
when.
it's hard. The matchups, everything changes throughout
Yeah,
the
of
weeks. But
course, of
I've
course.
been down on the Cowboys in turn compared to the market. I mean, we won big when the 49ers and Cowboys played early in the year.
Indeed, I
Um,
believe that was a best bet.
it was. And just looking back, I mean, Aaron Jones.
Not one of your 6 straight best bet winners, though,
No. That was
that
one
have
of
just occurred.
um Aaron Jones was running into boxes of like 5 Cowboys defenders. Like to me, there's just no way that the 49ers defensive coordinator is going to look at last week's game and be like, yes, we should definitely
We're
do
gonna
that kind of
we're gonna drop Chase
like
Young into coverage. Yeah.
we're gonna not rush. That was great on the first series when they dropped Micah Parsons into coverage. It just felt like there's a lot of blame and finger pointing going on with the Cowboys organization, but like the defense, I think it should be the consensus that whatever the defensive game plan was to basically put 6 guys in the box and say, okay, we're going to be able to stop Aaron Jones. We haven't been able to stop the run all year. I don't see the 49ers with their coaching staff looking at that and saying, yes, that's the way we should defend and stop Aaron Jones.
Yeah, for our longtime listeners of Betting the Pitch NFL edition, yeah, I feel like if they had used Chandler Parsons this weekend, maybe he would have batted down a few of those passes instead of.
You want to correct it now that you've said it, since it's the inside joke, or you want to just stick with
I
Chandler
think it's
Parsons?
just for the people, like it's for the day ones that have been around a long time, you know.
Because somebody is going to listen and say, dude, this guy knows nothing. He just said Chandler Parsons.
Well, you can tell me that, but then I've also won 9 of my last 10 bets on
You're not
NFL and
listening.
on pregame. I've also went 3-0 with I think 3 straight up underdog winners last week in the super wild card weekend. So you know, you don't really have to know anything. Sometimes you might forget that NBA retired at professional is not a defensive end for, or just mix up the names. That's how it goes. So move to Sunday. Before we get there, these lines are all quoted courtesy of Bet Online, partners of this podcast. They give you a 50% match bonus if you sign up a first time deposit. It might work if you're trying to reload. I'm not sure if that does. No one has told me if it does or if it doesn't, but I know it works for first time depositors. So throw that in there. There's a link, the podcast description, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or on YouTube. Hit that. There's also a sister site, SportsBetting.ag, that will give you a 100% match. I've taken advantage of it myself. It's great. They give you a free up to $500. So go throw 500 US in there. They'll give you 500 more to play around with. Perfect way to enrich yourself off of this podcast picks, and Andrew Schnicker going to 7-0 with his best bet, as I'm already predicting.
Nice. What are
So,
you watching there? What's on the TV in front of you? What are you?
well, I just have the lights on because I think it brings out my features better. And
Nice.
when they go
Okay.
black, I just have a tick where I have to turn them on again.
I see.
Uh,
Okay.
but
I thought it was the glare of the TV. I didn't know which basketball game we were watching.
well, no, nothing live. A half point cover from the UCF Golden Knights this weekend, and one of the most ridiculous
Yeah.
BYU and UCF, both not
Yeah.
good, by the way. So we'll move to Sunday. We'll start with the early game. Tampa Bay at Detroit. What do you have for a number there?
Detroit 7.5 point favorites.
I had a 7 here and opened 5.5. It looks we're up to 6.5. Total was 48.5. I made mine 45 and change, so I'm a little low there. Total has not moved, so still 48.5. And what do you feel about Tampa now getting 6.5 off of the demolishing and potential ending of Nick Sirianni, who got popcorn thrown at him walking out of the game last night?
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Oh,
by an Eagles fan in a
that's
Hassan Reddick
fire.
jersey. Yes. And then security came
Messed
after
up.
him. And I think he said, I'm leaving, I'm leaving. And
Did
they're
Big
like,
Dom
you
Big
better
Dom
get,
go after him?
you figure, but he probably was the one actually that threw the popcorn, actually.
I would say my prediction is that this if you like the Lions, then you should make your move now. And if you like the Bucks, then you probably should wait it out.
You should
That's
wait till you get your 7 or 7.5.
wait
Probably won't
wait
get
it
all
out.
the way
That
there,
we're
but
gonna get there. How about that? We can just move on to the next one. I'm just kidding.
no, no,
Um,
no. Wow, time is moving though. Sheesh.
we spent a lot of time on the Ravens Texans. Okay, let's do this. Jared Goff was excellent Sunday night. Mayfield was very good Monday, and I like seeing Mike Evans and those receivers a little bit healthier. That's great. It's just I still have a fundamental flaw with the Bucks and their coaching philosophy.
They like
Baker
to
Mayfield,
blitz. It's obvious. They don't
They do
even
like to
care.
blitz.
They don't even care.
My thing, like, but they still are dictated based off the run. Detroit's very good against the run. Detroit on the other side will pound the ball with Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Um, and I think that they should see success that way, where they're going to keep Jared Goff at least protected in the terms of getting some play action, get him back into his groove. Another home game for the Lions. No weather to deal with there. This is really setting up pretty perfectly for Goff for him to play well. But the Bucks are going to bang their head into the wall and try to run the ball, and I don't think the Lions are going to allow them to do that.
So then it'll all be on Baker Mayfield. And I got to say, he is probably the best wide receiver core that I can think of off the top of my head of these last 8 teams. Godwin and Mike Evans are always open. If Evans caught passes last night, that might have been 60-9.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm at this point, it's really hard for me to want to be against Detroit at home, but they did just kind of barely beat the Rams, and it felt like that was one of those games where they could have easily lost in a lot of different directions. I haven't really felt like I'm in love with Dan Campbell and his decisions.
Yeah.
I love the motivation factors and what he says in halftime interviews and such, but it's I mean, I would expect this hit 7, probably not 7.5. But with a push on 7, it's a pretty big number for Detroit to give, considering their struggles as a franchise. They haven't been here at all. I mean, we've seen not Steve Wilkes because he's the 49ers coordinator. Who's the head coach of the Bucks? Anyway, the guy likes to blitz.
Yeah, Todd Bowles.
Todd Bowles. I mean, you know, he's been deep and around. He's won a Super Bowl on the staff, I think, with the Bucks. So there's some track record history there. And I mean, Baker, to me, Mayfield seemed a lot healthier. Maybe there's just the right amount of Toradol, but every day that it keeps going, you've got till Sunday afternoon. It's a pretty good amount of time to rest. Yes, a little bit more for Detroit. But I'm pretty interested and I think we're both in agreement this is going to hit 7 at some point. And I don't think we need to project the conditions in the dome. So move to the last game. That's Kansas City at Buffalo. What do you have there?
Got the Bills at 1-point favorite.
I had Kansas City a 4-point underdog, and my total was 46. It looks like 46.5 was our opener. We're now seeing Buffalo a very juiced 2.5, 3 in some outlets as well. Total at 45.5. And I will go look at the weather while you tell me what you're thinking.
Okay, well, we saw this game not very long ago.
We did.
Wasn't this the offside?
This was the lateral play, which would have been insane.
Oh yes,
Kadarius
that's
Toney,
that's the play.
Yeah.
So
nice. Thank you, Kadarius. Hate you forever.
And this was really like
24 degrees, 15-mile-an-hour wind. 24 degrees, 15-mile-an-hour wind.
Okay, that's as of right now. Yes, that's fine. We're on the fringe of a wind, of me getting sirens or the alarms going off.
Getting windy, huh?
Yeah. So I think this was kind of the spurring of, okay, Buffalo could actually do this, get back into the playoff race and do something when they won earlier this year. I didn't take much away from the Kansas City Miami game, mostly because what the team that Kansas City was playing was a shell of what anyone expected. The cold weather thing it's a real thing with Miami. No matter if these guys like grew up wherever, they now live in South Florida. And that was quite a shock, and basically your entire defense being hurt. So the amount of field goals that Kansas City had to settle for, yes, they covered by a massive margin. It's still nothing to me. There was nothing in that offense said, "Yep, they've solved it. They figured it out." Rashee Rice, who may not be healthy in this one either. And then like Buffalo, I felt like they played with their food a little bit, and Pittsburgh throws the interception in the end zone. Very easily Pittsburgh could have at least covered, but they kind of shot themselves in the foot on that. But it does feel like it's lining up really well for Buffalo in this situation. What do you think?
mean, Buffalo does not ever win easy games. You could also argue the same thing with Detroit. Franchise is poisoned or something like that. It just can't ever be easy. Josh Allen looks really good, looks unstoppable at times. And these teams did play in Kansas City. It was a kind of awkward, small number on Kansas City, and they, to me, were never really in the game until the end. Big comeback, and then if Kadarius Toney remembered, Kadarius Phony learned how to, I don't know, line up. I think that was a Skip Bayless thing, but anyway, I think that would have been an incredibly unjustified winner. Maybe Buffalo wouldn't be in the playoffs at this point, which would be absolutely hilarious looking at it because they
Yeah.
do feel like one of the best 8 teams. Um, but I think we're both in agreement. This line will hit 3 before kickoff.
Yeah.
And the total probably, if it gets a lot windier,
And
maybe
if
we
it
see
gets
it
to
fall.
3, I'm gonna have to. That's gonna be tough to avoid the Chiefs, anyways. And I
All
don't
right.
want to. Man, I can probably talk myself out of it. Never mind. We're running out of time.
It's all right. Well, let's go in. If you're not a member of my Patreon yet, check it out. Patreon.com/real_score. You're one of the best spot to get all my picks across all the different platforms. Got a new subscriber today, new patron. And I figure, why not shout some people out? Jason Sheary, thanks so much for coming on in, joining the team. We got a lot of people over there exchanging ideas, trying to get me to bet more things, basically is how it goes. So thank you for all your support on there. As I already mentioned, 5-star reviews would be great. We got a good one from Jevum34. Griffin is a rising star. That was the subject line. Climb aboard the rocket ship. These guys are great. So I can only expect that was written about A_SCHNITKER on Twitter and his 6 straight best bet wins. But since in the interest of time, before we get to our best bets, let's go game by game. And we're going to pick against the spread with our current numbers Tuesday night. Baltimore 9-point favorite.
Okay, let's take. I'll take the Texans.
I'll take Houston. San Francisco, 9.5-point favorite.
San Francisco.
I'll take Green Bay. Detroit, a 6.5-point favorite.
Detroit.
I'll take Tampa Bay. Buffalo, a 2.5-point favorite.
Buffalo.
I'll take Buffalo. And for our best bets, it's now time. Go ahead, Andrew Snicker. The floor is yours.
Okay. To me, I love what the Packers have done. I love what they've done. But let's take another side. Let's go to 7-0. Ride with my favorite team in the NFL right now. My favorite to win the Super Bowl, the San Francisco 49ers, -9.5.
So you just heard it after he said how much he loved the Green Bay Packers. A_SCHNITKER. He's 6-0 his last 6 best bets. He did a little double cross and went with San Francisco 49ers, a 9.5-point favorite tonight on Tuesday night as we record for everyone. So you know where these lines are moving. You know who to play. You know where to put your money. And you can just
Do it
have
now.
a nice, easy, relaxing Saturday before the Packers cover the spread for Andrew Snicker's 7 straight best bet win, because apparently it's impossible to lose when he's putting in bets at this point. He's been an incredible run, and I'm going to go a different direction with my best bet. This is Betting Pitch NFL edition. I'm the real_G Warner on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon, and I will give you the Buffalo Bills, a 2.5-point favorite as my best bet. I don't mind if it hits 3. I don't think this is going to be a close game. I think Kansas City will finally have that Taylor Swift dynasty ended. So take Buffalo -2.5. Take San Francisco 9.5-point favorites on Saturday for your best bets for this divisional round. And that's what we got. Got anything you'd like to get off your chest? We got 1 minute and 7 seconds.
No, I'm surprised by that pick. I love it. I love it, Griffin. Let's do it.
I'm just a favorites guy, you know.
I know you are.
It's all
Slowly but surely.
I mean, I've been beaten so many times with my underdogs over the years, but not on this podcast. 9-1 last 10 picks on pregame. So if you've been subscribing there, you've been cashing. If you've been listening to Andrew Snicker on this podcast, you've been cashing, and that's what we're going to do. We'll see you next Tuesday for the Conference Championships edition. So stay tuned. We'll see you then.